All right, thank you very much. It's time for our second matchup of the day. Michael, TSM versus Astralis, two massive organizations, but at both very different places in the standings. Given the fact that we haven't seen Astralis really play Kafe over the last 10 months, just one time it was alluded to as the desk said, what do we come to expect for this matchup? Do they know something that we don't?
I mean, on the surface, the desk is totally right. This does look a lot like a TSM match. There's a possibility that Astralis has been doing some practice behind the scenes. That one time, I mean, that was back when they were disrupt in Stage 2, and they managed to beat Oxygen. That was an 8-7 match. It was a pretty close one. So it was still a win for Astralis, but I'm putting my bet here on TSM pretty clearly. I mean, I feel like you'd be a fool not to. The thing is, though, Parker, with North America being as it is right now, this stage has been upset city. It's really hard to predict who's going to win these days, frankly. And, well, you guys and gals in the audience have a community poll to go ahead and predict on yourself. It's going to be achieved a DP fire, lead their teams and entries. Who will get the most opening kills in this match?
J9O has been almost an outlier for this team in terms of his potential, sitting just outside of the top 5 in terms of ranking right now. His rating is 1.21. The next closest on the team is Shuttle at 0.88.
Yep.
In fact, the usual high-flying performers of Iconic and DP Fire both find themselves deep in the red. Iconic with a 0.88 as well, tied with Shuttle and DP Fire with a 0.85. As for TSM, they might not have as high-flying a performer in Merc, but the team is doing much better statistically, with Geo and Bolo well above the Astralis players, and in fact, the only player that is below any of them right now is Chala, and he's still ahead of Shuttle, Iconic, and DP Fire. So TSM ultimately statistically the better team, but we'll see if that actually translates to the matchup, Michael, because we've got a map to play. You can see the map flight in front of your eyes, so we will get things underway here with Kafe. Astralis enters this matchup in 8th place. They are in that log jam at the bottom of the standings. Beast Coast, Mirage, Astralis, and Xset all tied with 3 points. But TSM is not that much farther ahead. They have 4 points to their name. So for Astralis, this could be a big pickup in terms of the standings should they prevail. We'll get into the operator ban phase, and Thatcher is gone first.
Will be another Maverick Thatcher? No, Zofia banned away by Astralis. That begs some looking into. If you look at all maps, TSM's attacking operators, Zofia is one that they do bring, but not even that often when available, about 31% for TSM. And yeah, I'm not sure what the target was for that. Maybe if we zoom in on Kafe, it'll be different, but I very much doubt it. Slightly different, about 42% played when available for Zofia, although her win rate for TSM on this map is 80% when brought. So that's a pretty substantial statistic. Maybe that's what Astralis is targeting. Maybe they just feel like they don't want to deal with the clear available from the Zofia or the stuns or something along those lines. But I feel like there were better bans, frankly. I'm curious how that plays out. It could be down to something they want to do in-game.
And Zofia is not the most played attacker for any of the players on TSM. Now, I know in the past that we've seen Bolo play Zofia quite a lot, but
yeah,
that's not what he's been doing so far this stage. As TSM have shuffled their roles, it's been Sledge as the most played operator for Bolo through these 3 games. TSM, for the record, or rather, yeah, through these 3 games, TSM had a day off back in Playday number 2 as 3 teams sat on the sidelines, so we don't have them playing every single day, which means that we're just a little bit behind on that data in comparison to other teams, but right. Either way, the Zofia ban will be something to keep an eye on. And in the previous matchup, we saw Dark Zero run the very typical AR variant that she uses instead of the LMG, which is a bit abnormal because since the changes to recoil with Zofia went live, a lot of players switched to that LMG. Not the case for that. So maybe there's something that we don't know about the way that Zofia is settling in and players adjusting to her gun and then still knowing that she's got good utility. Who knows? Well, Astralis took her out of the action, which means they're not going to run her, and it's going to probably hurt TSM.
Yeah, so I mean, her AK is actually perfectly viable now. I don't know what they've done to it recently. You keep seeing periodic changes, but it's actually in a place right now where it's really not that bad. It's almost reminds me of the old version of it, pre-nerf. J90 lead off here. Down goes Achieved. He's on the floor over by Pillars. Gonna have to do better than that. Starting things off here with TSM on the back foot. One thing I do want to briefly mention here, it's very important on a map like Kafe, Valkyrie is not banned.
Is she the second most banned operator, Michael?
I think she's around there, yeah, on defenses, especially for maps like Kafe. No, she's actually the most banned defender so far through this stage. With a whopping 80% ban rate.
A lot of teams will not bring Mira on a number of these bomb sites, so I mean, I guess it makes perfect sense that they would ban out Valkyrie and leave Mira upright.
Yeah, I mean,
Mira's banned here, though, so I guess joke's on us. Anywho, this is a reading defense on that second floor, which means that the first focus for Astralis is on the top floor. That's where Geo and Merc are playing side by side. The castle in back bar right now waiting as he hears the drop coming in from Red Hatch over by Humidor, and he will have to test his reflexes around the door frame. As DP Fire, one of the stars for Astralis, who's had a bit of a slow stage thus far, alongside most of the team for that record, will now go to scout with the Onyclone going out. And flashes will be evaded by Merc. Drone goes by, but Geo's not as lucky. He's blinded as he drops through the hatch to try and get next to Chala, leaving Merc up top all by himself.
This is a really odd way that Astralis are choosing to take this. They're avoiding the pressure positions and trying to go for the side, and it's kind of working. Merc's going to eat a lot of damage. They also have the leadoff pick already. Here comes the push upstairs following that EE1D, and looks like they will be successful in pushing all of TSM, except for Merc off that top floor. They haven't even checked for him. He's going to get a nice kill on the shuttle, possibly a second, but no, DP will shut him down. Hold on there to DP Fire, and now TSM continue to lose control of this round as Geo falls, possibly trying to attempt a flank from red stairs. Astralis, 2 players up right now with 35 seconds left to execute.
Playing through these angles that have been created, Bolo the long-range fight, and he's going to need to do some even greater damage with 4 bodies up from Astralis, but there's nothing that he can do at all. Down for the count, he is as good as gone, and Astralis looking triumphant on that first round.
Whoa, look at their faces, Parker. This is big. This is important. One thing that is often discussed about NAL teams in general is that they can be pretty momentum-based. There's no literal momentum in Siege, but it could get in your head. It often does for NAL teams. Whether you're successful or you're failing, it can get in your head. And I think that is especially true for Astralis. It was true back when they were Disrupt. It's true now. Still, the players haven't changed in that matter. And, you know, if they put up a few early rounds, they start doing really well against TSM, I have a very, strong feeling that they're going to be able to carry that forward a lot further than many would have expected. I mean, most are predicting TSM going into this, but there's upset potential. Very serious upset potential.
I feel like we have that, though, and have seen that a number of times. I mean, best of ones obviously enable that, right? You can have a map that you've been preparing for ages. Astralis could have been tinkering with this in the background, Michael, for months now, and I know that it's just through scrims, but at the same time, you're still learning it, and you're still ready to pull it out, and teams have surprised us many times in the past where they don't play a map, and then all of a sudden, it shows up, and hey, I guess they do really well. One of the best examples of that on Kafe was that all the way back in 2018, it was the Penta versus EG finals at SI, where this was a relatively good map for EG, but for Penta, they just made up half their strats on the fly as they were going into it, and, well, they won it, and they hadn't really played it before.
Long time ago.
I mean, it was quite a long time ago, Michael, but with that said, the point is that with the best of one situation, we can have some upsets, and we've already had some thus far. I mean, last week, the XSET matchup, or 2 weeks ago, the XSET matchup against Sonic certainly looks like an unexpected upset given what Sonics have done since then. So keep an eye on it. It's just one round for Astralis. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the entire game, but it was a very strong round from them.
Yeah, certainly an extremely strong round. Now, going into the next, very heavy roam upstairs here. Bolo and Merc aggressively controlling by Cigar. Very important. These are important positions to hold. They're kind of choke points. If you can deny for a projected amount of time, then Astralis is going to, well, run out of time to execute onto the actual site, which appears to be that bottom floor, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, indeed, it is kitchen. So this is a very extended roam, but definitely a smart roam from TSM. Shotgun in the humidor, and read well by DP Fire. Gets a very important kill onto Merc. No follow-up from Bolo. He'll just decide to fall back.
You don't want to engage on that. And yet again, Astralis' entry, excellent. 2 rounds so far, and they have made it work. Though it definitely seemed like that was a controller disconnected moment from Merc, who gave his position away, and I'm sure he heard the drop on red and knew somebody was there, but couldn't really do too much about it. Smart play from Bolo to drop off, as you talked about, and leave a minute or so left on this clock for him to play inside a VIP. Now, I can't tell from the overlay if there's a deployable shield by him, but typically there is. A Rotero drone is going to go out, and I don't know if that's going to take out a black eye cam or a bulletproof cam. There is no deployable shield, so Bolo will just be fighting this without any protection on white stairs. He's going to be frozen for a moment along with the rest of his teammates, and Achieve takes some damage while that EE1D goes off. Down goes DP Fire, so TSM can fight back. Bolo outduels Retro. Seemed like Astralis were caught off guard by both of those engagements. You're going to need to be a little bit more sure-footed when it comes to where they are. Nitro Cell gets tossed out as well by Achieve, but it's a little bit too late. Iconic has made his way around it. He'll check to the right, but the engagement is going to come on the left, and he sees it through the wall with 2 of them there. Geo just close by, tucked into that cubby underneath red stairs. Down goes Shuttle, and now it looked like Iconic was going to go 2, but he's better than that. Achieved Crossfire. That takes down the last member of Astralis. That finds his way in. J90, last one alive, and Bolo shuts him down. TSM answers back.
Big round there for TSM, and they stopped the attack before it even got to the site. The roamers, not too effective. As you mentioned, Merc had some trouble upstairs. Bolo falls back immediately off of that. Doesn't even try to scuffle. Gets all the way down to VIP. Lots of time wasted in that transition, by the way. Astralis definitely suffered on that. It took him a while to realize, okay, yeah, we can go straight for site now. But once Astralis realizes, okay, we've got the avenue, we know what we want to do, they start executing by coat check VIP, some basic stuff there, your standard steps to taking whiskey, but they fail on all of those pushes. Their Whitehall push fails. Bolo stops that. Their push down brown stairs fails. Their push it through front doors fails. Everything is just falling apart for Astralis. Even though they have the number, they have the route, it just doesn't work because TSM is so aggressively and so actively contesting these close sight roam positions, these bottlenecks that are ever important. It's basically keeping the cone of focus on the attackers rather than allowing the attackers to invert it onto you when you're playing on the site. And it's smart stuff from TSM.
The TSM are able to fight back, and Astralis, well, your entry is going to live or die off of your ability to locate those defenders. Drone work was a little bit shoddy to start off with. An upstairs defense now from TSM as they have not repeated a single bomb site. Reading is still open. That's where they lost the very first round and what eventually was a 4v1 in the dying seconds for Astralis that they ended up prevailing on, leaving TSM in the cold. I'm curious to see if we're going to see mining and dining emerge. All 4 bomb sites on this map tend to be optimal to a certain extent, and teams can play however they want, but I like seeing mining and dining. I just like seeing the diversity. Cocktail being upstairs and doesn't exactly leave a lot of room for error, so teams, if they invest very heavily on defense in piano or play from below with lots of nitro cells, can present a major headache for teams that are a little bit sluggish on the attack and have some struggles with droning.
The dronies could be a major factor. This time, though, not as much of a roaming presence to clear out. Obviously, you still have those players downstairs here for TSM, but they're less of a direct threat. The main focus, of course, is going to be on hitting the site from red, cigar, piano, and that requires clearing out real anchors, to be honest. It's Goyo of Bolo inside of the bathroom, trying to hold on to piano as best he can with this TCSD-12.
Odd choice of gun, as we don't see a lot of TCSGs these days, but, I mean, there was a period of time where they seemed to reign supreme in the meta, Michael. Bolo's played off of this spot before, by the way. The times that we've seen TSM, one of their very early strats was that mute Aruni castle setup inside a bathroom. You can also see a Warden get brought to play off of Pixel if teams are very worried about lots of flashes going in or a Ying being brought, smokes that you need to see through, etc. So TSM have changed up their composition, though. Geo on that Maestro will be playing on that quarterback role, waiting far enough back, and He's going to have to move because the Rotero drone goes right in, and some of the floor is going to get taken away. But that'll actually work quite nicely for Geo if he wants to look down below.
It's definitely going to be a factor to consider. I mean, there's a lot downstairs, but oh, that's good use of the clone there, I think, from DP Fire to gather some intel. This aggressive use of the shields for TSM, the pressure applied to Astralis as a result is very considerable. The fact that Astralis hasn't managed to get an early pick as they have through many of these rounds is going to cause some problems when they go for that execution.
Geo taking some damage now, deep inside a cocktail, playing around that table that's been shot to hell and back as the smoke goes out in front of him. Toxic canisters, three flashbangs go in, and so does DP Fire, but he gets gunned down in the process. It's an all-out brawl as Geo's dropped, and technically the first kill goes to Astralis, though it is answered back. They'll need to retrieve DP Fire, but no, he's still down, and now he's out for the count. Shuttle will join him. Astralis in a 2v4 as Iconic creeps up in a 1v4 that becomes an 0v4. Merc silencing the last two players from Astralis as they wander into their doom. Nice spray transfer from Merc, relatively easy stuff, and TSM's 2 rounds in a row now give them the lead in this match.
TSM are starting to look a lot more solid here, and you can see how clearly Astralis were rebuffed on that attack. They set up as your standard Kafe execution through Cigar, through Piano, nothing too surprising, but those shields causing so many problems. And I mean, in a way, Astralis kind of did that to themselves. One of the best ways to deal with those shields is either through an Ashe or Zofia, because they're the most direct way to thread the needle through the tiny little murder holes that are opened up in those walls and destroy the shield to, you know, make your push possible, frankly. Astralis were the ones who banned Zofia. I mean, they could bring other tools. There's lots of tools. But my point is that they weren't used adequately. The objective was not met. Astralis still had to contest such powerful positions from TSM. And, you know, you can't have that when you're executing a very linear attack like top floor Kafe.
Well, it's funny because that tends to be the site that we see attackers do well on, especially if they can get a very quick hold of Piano, but that was never in the cards for Astralis. And once they realized that there was 30 seconds left and they didn't really have the Piano control they wanted, they didn't really have much outside of Cigar. They had to go right in. DP Fire decided, I'll go for broke. Through the smoky charges, misses his opportunity on that back bar player, and then gets gunned down on the cross. All just calamity ensued. So, I mean, it is a bit of a linear site, as you pointed out. So,
I mean, I think I have higher expectations for Astralis on an execution like that. They won't have a chance to show us what they can really do on that site for a while now, though. We're gonna have to wait for that to unlock again if TSM even decides to go back there. Let's see.
One of the things that I think need to be brought up was what Jesse talked about on the desk as well. Astralis has the, the second lowest attacking win percentage of any team in the NAL with defending win percentage with 36%.
Oh boy.
36% conversion rate on defense for Astralis. That is extremely poor. So if you're Astralis, if you are incapable of running up the score on attack, then statistically, you are in awful shape when you switch sides. So, yeah, Astralis need to at least win 3 of these rounds. At bare minimum, they need to walk away with 3 of these rounds. I mean, obviously, the win condition for most teams is 4 rounds. 4-2 being usually the most common scoreline one way or another. Well, I mean, Astralis need to hit 3-3 at minimum. I would aim much higher than that, or else they're in big trouble.
It's not just about that. I mean, through this stage, this map has been played twice, and it has a 43% defensive win rate, which makes it extremely attacker-sided statistically. So, I mean, we're zooming in on Astralis is bad if they don't get more rounds on attack. If we're zooming in on Kafe, it's bad if Astralis doesn't get more rounds on attack. But, I mean, we've been having our expectations kind of torn away from us and proven drastically wrong all through this stage of NAL. This has been a very wild stage of NAL. I think that's the best word we could use to describe it.
Well, there goes some of the protection from inside of Train, leading into that dining component here on this reading defense. It doesn't look like Astralis really care about the top floor, and this might be a major problem from them, as TSM have not relinquished the top floor. Diffuser started to go down by Shuttle. He's punished by Merc. First kill for TSM. Achieved taken out by Iconic, as now Astralis will want to rush in, but there it is! That top floor supremacy as Bolo drops and picks up 2 kills. He'll sit over top of the Diffuser as well. Pistol out is Iconic with 35 seconds to go. Will rush back to the aid of his teammates. Retro as well, still alive, but not too much they can do. Side by side, they work on red stairs. Merc goes down, so Retro trying to even the odds for his team. 3 more bodies from TSM to find. Crosshairs out for Retro. Over by Museum, looking towards Engine. Bolo's on the case. He's already got 2 kills. A third for him. Iconic would make it 4. It's going to be the F2 versus the Storm. But it's Bolo to win it out. A big 4K in round number 4, and TSM have taken 3 rounds on defense.
Great 4K there from Bolo, and yeah, TSM racking them up. Now, that round, Astralis determined that the top floor was too much too clear. They're also going to determine that this is the opportune time to take a tactical timeout, and they'll do just that. We will wait for Astralis to think about what they can do. So, anyway, zooming into this round again. Astralis assumed that they would have too much trouble going upstairs, so they decided to just focus on the site. He said, you know what, there's 3 roamers upstairs, only 2 anchors holding the site, and only really 1 on dining. So let's just go for it. The problem is that Astralis did all that, and they didn't maintain their hold in piano? So, free flanks from the piano drop for TSM. Bolo drops and gets a 4K. Really weird decision-making there, to be honest. I mean, you could bait it out. You'd be like, oh yeah, we'll do direct sight hit, somebody lurk in Cigar or top red and punish the players who push into piano. Like, that's a great idea. But they just went straight for it, and that was super dangerous for Astralis.
I feel like that's one of those plays as well that we get the benefit of hindsight on.
I don't know. I feel like that's kind of basic flank watch, don't you?
I mean, yes, but I also see that Astralis reads that there are 3 players from TSM up top. The moment that they open up the panel into dining, they can just run in and start to get the diffuser down. As long as the 2 players from TSM are not looking in that particular direction, and many teams will ignore that dining component of the bomb site, often at their peril, but many teams will overlook that part because so many teams like to plant inside of reading, that maybe Astralis says, okay, they're all off site, they're not looking, we can do this, let's get in, let's get the plant down. We've seen teams pull this off. OXG has done this all stage by being able to just run into bomb sites and get plants down within the first 30 to 40 seconds. This was no more apparent than their matchup on Chalet just a couple play days ago. Right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel you. I'm still saying, though, there's room for leniency, there's room for, like, saying, okay,
10 seconds to insertion.
these mistakes could be made, and hindsight is definitely a major factor, Parker. I agree with you. It's just, I am, though, going to say that TSM is, as of this moment, I think since the last Invitational, frankly, TSM and their roam specifically, or their ability to push into, places where you give them lenience, has been exceptional. That's one of their strengths. So I just expect you to be prepared for that, I guess. Maybe I'm being too harsh here, but it's, it did cost Astralis a round. Yeah, it's hindsight. We'll see if they can correct that moving forward into these future rounds. They still have 2 more rounds here in regulation, including this one, for their attacks. And we already played up how important those attacks are. Oh, I love this T1 skin, by the way.
Oh, it's very nice. So many of the skins are just absolutely gorgeous. You are, by the way, if you have the money, because obviously I'm not going to engage in shaming somebody for not having the money, but if you have the money and the disposable income and you like to support your local teams, highly recommend checking out the new team skins that are available in-game. Some of them are absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
I would go so far as to say that some of the nicest skins that we've actually ever seen, but...
Yeah, no, I agree.
Oh, Merc gets very close to taking out J90, whose shoulder is virtually gone, but his head's still intact, and with it he can carry that rifle. Astralis narrowly missing out on a pick as well, but they managed to get it. Retro upside down through the garage door opening, takes out Merc, and immediately Astralis will hop down onto that top floor with Iconic going to work to catch the footprints of any wayward defenders. That's the top floor now very firmly in Astralis' control, looking to translate that to the very bottom floor, which is the first floor kitchen. That's where the site is, with half the round to go.
Now, TSM have lost Merc, obviously, so that's big, but they've also managed to waste a lot of time. That's also going to be a major consideration. The biggest thing here is how quickly can Astralis open up this floor, which is TSM ceiling, and it's going to be starting right about now. 1 minute, 5 seconds on the clock is when the soft destruction above will start, so you guys at home can go ahead and time that yourselves.
Get your watches out if you'd so choose. For the third floor, they make it down to the second floor, and their next focus is, like, as I said, that bottom floor. In order to do that, they need to push out all of the players who are inside of the site, ideally into the waiting arms of Astralis, which is what the sledge is doing from above. You can see J90 whacking away at the floor to open up those sight lines. Achieved as a Nitro sellout. He's playing behind Whiskey, the similar spot that he was on before, with Bolo backing him up. Both of these players did a significant amount of damage here, Bolo in particular. But the smokes will go out, allowing Iconic to vault in. Lines of sight completely changed, and Iconic walks right in. But no! He botches it onto Bolo. Everybody from Astralis missing out. And suddenly, TSM have turned this around, but DP Fire has something to say about it till Achieved answers back. The War of Words goes in his favor, and a second will follow, with TSM now taking 4 rounds in a row, stretching their lead here on Kafe.
Wow, I mean, they all fell down there, Parker. That is rough for Astralis. That little moment there from Iconic really cost VIP, but it wasn't the only moment. All of the gunfights were won by TSM when the execute happened. So, you know, across the board, just a really solid defense there from TSM. And all the contact points, I have to point this out again. All of the contact points were pretty much the same from the last time Astralis executed on that site. It's mostly by VIP, Whiskey, Coat Check, and it almost played out the same too, despite Astralis trying to throw some curveballs with the smoke rush, and you know, their positioning being maybe a little bit different. Their coordination was certainly better. They all executed at the same time instead of going piecemeal, so that's great. But no, I mean, it didn't work out. That Bolo was blind, by the way, in VIP. That's why he wasn't shooting back initially, and I can't believe he didn't. Iconic didn't win that one. That is unfortunate.
That is a brutally hard thing to witness, because Iconic is going to get absolutely cooked over that one.
Yeah, I feel bad for him, yeah. I mean, Iconic has been such a stellar player, too. That's the really rough thing. So it doesn't matter how well you play. You have moments like that. That's what people remember. Not this stage, by the way. Iconic's been struggling this stage, but I mean, he's been probably one of the most influential players for his team overall, long term.
Absolutely. Iconic, I would go so far as to say he is the most important player on this team for Astralis.
Yeah.
Consistently good. He's flexible. He can play strong roles, whether it be on entry or not. He doesn't need a ton of backup. I would say J90 has also been instrumental for them. Right now, one of the best players for Astralis historically is Shuttle, and he is so clutch and has done just tons of damage despite being outnumbered that we've seen ever since he started all the way back on the Elevate, for crying out loud. He's having a rough game. He has been unable to find the scoreboard thus far, but I mean, he's in good company. Chala's only got 1 kill to his name, so both of them towards the bottom. J90 picks up another kill this time. It's number 3. It's on to Geo. Down goes Geo. An ineffective start for TSM with half of the round still to play. Just a little over half of the round.
Right.
Expecting aggressive refrags through the windows. It's just a brief pause from the Yana of DP Fire waiting.
But I gotta say, this has been happening a lot. TSM are often losing the first body. And you look at the scoreline and you can see what that really amounts to. Shala has swapped out with Merc and is now the one trying to hold this position with the shotgun. Nate comes in, but is caught by the ADS, and Shala will just drop, saying, you know what? Had enough of that. I will fall back. 2 SAS shotgun SMG-11 combos on the board here between Shala and Achieved. And TSM are just continuing to peel off. As Astralis finally get control of top red, they could start their push towards the site.
There's the final 60 seconds to go. And you've managed to take out that castle, who's not going to be that pivotal in a firefight. In terms of the weaponry that's being brought, I would go so far as to say the weakest weapon of them all for TSM. Astralis are going to push from the same position that they were going from before, which is over by that humidor inside a cigar. Is there anybody watching in Piano for Bolo to slip out? He can potentially get behind enemy lines here and do some serious damage, as we saw in the previous matchup with Yeti. DP Fire looks to walk through the same doorway that he'd been slowed down by smoke before, but there's an EE1D, and let's hope that that Gon 6 hits its target. Another smoke will go right in front of him. Chala governing that opening. 20 seconds left, and no toxic canisters remain except for what will linger by the door, and Chala gets taken down through the soft wall. The first kill for Shuttle is on the board, Michael. And they'll walk in 10 seconds with Shuttle looking towards that bar back store. You gotta go. Where are you? Down goes Retro. Bolo from behind, but Merkin achieved fall, so it's all on the flank of Bolo. Through the wall, he does some damage to J90, but DP Fire and the rest of Astralis have that one under watch. Down Bolo goes. No heroics from him. Astralis win the first round of this half and the last. It's only good enough for 2. Now they go on a defense.
Bolo did manage to get the only kills for his team there, but I mean, they really amount to anything. He himself has been racking up quite a lot of kills in that first half. 4-2, I mean, that's not bad, assuming that Astralis changes the fates of defense here, assuming they have a similar kind of split. Right out the gate, Parker, they're going to bring a clash. Wow, that is a bold move, and it really does explain the Zofia ban.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a ton of sense now. So if you've got a clash on the board, what are your counters if Zofia is gone? Well, number one, you can try to flush that clash into an air jab. So a Nomad being brought by TSM makes a ton of sense. And Nomad tends to be one of the most played operators for TSM, whether it be Chala before that or Geo. Doesn't matter, they'll just swap out the role. Additionally, Capitao can be a mighty thorn in the side with those arrows spreading and doing quite a bit of damage at the clash slow enough to get out of the way. She's going to take a lot of damage in the process, though Capitao's pick rate, when not banned, is quite low, so I don't expect to see TSM make that change to deal with it. Outside of that, you can try to disable her shield, or you can just simply use grenades, and there should be 2 sets of grenades here for TSM. 3, in fact, as it shows that there's 6 grenades at the top, but I don't necessarily think that is accurate. No, it is not. So it shows 6 grenades at the top. That's not quite correct, as Merc and Achieved have 2 apiece, so there's only 4 on the board, as I suspected.
Yeah, it's often wrong. You just take everything you see on the HUD with a little pinch of salt. Anywho, now, the clash is going to be a major factor to consider, but it's not the only one. The Valkyrie as well. We talked about how she wasn't banned out, and here she is being played by Astralis. It's going to be a lot of important information, and it could force TSM to bring an IQ, which is not what you want. IQ is just a huge sacrifice of utility. She's really hyper-specific in her use. You're going to have to give up on a set of nades, or some soft destruction from other means, or a hammer. You know, what have you. It's not ideal. Now, the clear for TSM is a top-down. It's a full clear. This is what we call this. Top floor is fully clear. There's no one up there. So it appears the middle floor. It looks like everyone from Astralis is down on that bottom floor. So that's going to be really important for TSM. They can quickly, succinctly focus their efforts on the actual site, on opening up above and getting those walls open.
This means that if you're hoping for some aggressiveness from the defense, you're not going to get it, because if they're going to play this stalwart style, then, well, they're not going to expend too much. There's going to be no altercations or firefights until the final 40, 30 seconds or so. So we look at a cheeky cam, by the way. They don't need to be playing themselves off-site if they've got Valkyrie cameras to do that. And that's one that'll be scouted out in the replays and studied for those who decide to play against Astralis, just inside of Train, or Engine as it's called. And the Nitro Cell's blown a little bit too early, so I don't know if that's a belated call or not, but a bit of a problem. One secondary gadget that could very easily stop the opponents in their tracks if TSM does not work out as intended.
That's also the only C4 that you have on the side of Astralis, so this vertical is going to be uncountered for TSM. They're just going to open up from above, and they're going to start applying that direct pressure to the site. They got plenty of time to do it. They've got plenty of manpower to do it with. There's not a lot that Astralis could do to get themselves out of this other than stay on their own positions off-site.
It's been a minute since we started talking about this one, and it's going to be a hot drop into Freezer. So here comes the action, but J90 doesn't seem to be aware of that. 2 kills, one from each side, and more blood will be shed by the Freezer as Astralis seems to be holding this one down. Iconic in particular with Retro making the calls. The Clash in a position where she is basically immovable. It'll continue to tick away at Chala's HP as he's sitting on the default plant spot by the bomb chassis, just by Freezer, before Astralis can get somebody in a position. Shuttle to be the one to do it. Geo creeping up on VIP, but he looks the wrong way around the shield. This is a tough one, and he loses out to J90, leaving achieved in a 1v3. He's down for the count, takes Shuttle down with him in the process, but ultimately, Astralis ends up walking away with that one, and 36% win rate on defense for Astralis, says who, as they take their very first defense.
Very important round there for Astralis. And one thing I have to point out is that is a well thought out strategy, frankly. I love what we saw there. So the C4 was obviously unsuccessful, but the real name of the game for that strat was the play off-site. I mentioned it as it was happening, but I've talked about this more in previous Kafe matches. But the real way to counter vertical play on the bottom floor of Kafe from the attackers is to just not be in the site. You could be in Baker, you could be in Kochek, VIP, Whiskey. There are many options that are hard to counter for the attack, hard to take for the attack, that will allow you to safely avoid the vertical pressure that those holes that are opened up from above will provide for the attackers. And also, I love the way they injected the Clash into that scenario, because there's only a few operators that are going to be able to persist in sight on the locations where the plants are going to happen, and there's only one that can do it while slowing everybody down, and that's Clash. I love that. That's so interesting. So putting Clash deep in bunker, you're not going to be able to push to the safe positions where you aren't going to have to worry about those long angles the defenders are using, because Clash is slowing you and giving calls constantly. What do? And TSM, they didn't have the answer.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb.
Yeah, I thought that Clash play was brilliant, especially in the corner. The real thing that you could do is you could put an air jab down there and knock the Clash forward, but I don't think there was any wherewithal. Especially if I remember Geo being one of the first to die, if memory serves me correctly. So
it's also like timing positioning, right?
Yeah, I mean, your air jabs are also going elsewhere, right? I very much doubt that a Nomad is hot dropping Freezer to assist with the plant when, with more than a single air jab remaining.
Yeah, that's
usually they're there for flank watch.
That's hindsight. That's like, well, maybe. But definitely, I mean, it could work. Now they know for next time.
Well, they have a long way to wait for next time, as that site is locked off Michael for 2 rounds. The Clash coming out yet again, so you're absolutely correct. That explains the Zofia ban wonderfully. I don't know if it has been changed or fixed, but there was that issue with Kali's sniper rifle not knocking the shield of Clash away at the start of Crystal Guard.
Yeah, I don't know if that one's been fixed either, but I mean, it's still
I assume that was just a bug that got fixed. I never saw a follow-up for it, but it is worth noting that should TSM want to bring her, not many teams do, but you can always bring a Kali to knock the shield away if you think this Clash is being a particular nuisance.
Great use of the nade there from TSM. They're going to open up that wall, and look at that. Merc, beautiful stuff. Lots of damage done with the initial nade. Knocks the shield aside, and he shoots the foot like a precision sniper. That's a beautiful play there from TSM, and they deal with that pesky Clash very early on.
One of the big winning conditions for that previous round was keeping the Clash alive, and now that she's gone, well, your odds of winning might go down quite drastically. So take up space upstairs and maybe continue to push forward, as this is a cocktail/bar defense, so there isn't a ton of wiggle room from Astralis. They've already lost control of that part of Cigar and Humidor, so now somebody will play from below. It looks like Iconic's been the one that's been forced to do that. Whether he is capable of stopping it or not is anybody's guess. There's no nitro cells as well, and absent a smoke, and with the lineup that Astralis has, there is no real plant denial outside of simply killing. So this might get tough, and the UMP from J90 fails him. A grenade goes out. Storm from DP Fire, though, is good enough. Bolo drops. Achieved follows him. Both teams find themselves in a 3v3. Diffuser not going down, though. Chala hesitating whether he doesn't have good coverage or is wary of where the players from Astralis are. He finally figures it out, and there he goes. He'll hit the halfway mark with both Merc and Geo covering, and Merc doesn't miss those shots. Shuttle is a one-man stand, but the army not quite strong enough. Chala manages to take matters into his own hands, popping off that diffuser at the right moment and getting the kill to give TSM a round they desperately needed. They lose that. Astralis wins 3 rounds in a row. It's all tied up, and momentum is very firmly in the favor of Astralis. Not the case, though. TSM managed to stop the bleeding.
Very important round, definitely. That nade there, that play from Merc, that's some great stuff. I think that opened things right up, but I gotta say, that Clash play was not nearly as supported as Clash plays we've seen in the past, nor as well thought out. The bunker Clash play is really smart. I like that a lot. They stack their ADSs, they play around it on the long angles, there's constant support from other positions, the Clash is never exposed, really. But then,
Defenders, protect your bombs from being
you know, just putting your Clash behind the counter in Cigar, that is as dangerous as it gets. You're trapped and you're directly in the way on the highway. That's, you know, not as well thought out, Parker. And well countered by Merc as well. We have to give credit where credit is due. Really great use of the nades in general from TSM, also getting that castle barricade without going through either of the two Surya gates that were in the way. Now, that's just one round there for TSM, and we can see Astralis changing up their site selection. They're going to go to reading dining as their next defense.
So no mining yet. Alas, my dream of seeing this bomb site, it dies. It dies in front of us.
I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll happen. Like somewhere towards the end.
Astralis like the Clash. Do you think this was an intentional move to not bring the Clash this time around, or do you think they just realized that, hey, maybe she's not as strong as she could be, and they figured it out, let's abandon it?
Well, I like the Clash play downstairs, and I want to see Astralis do that again. Even if TSM are going to bring a counter, it'll take some time, right? But you gotta, it feels kind of like a Tachanka, where you have to have like a specific plan for him or her to be useful. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me.
It's a lot of investment, you know? I mean, heck, they banned an operator for it. I would have liked to have
got them around. I mean, you banned an operator, and it absolutely got you one round.
Really important round.
A very important round. And I mean, for Astralis on defense, they need every round they can get with their win rate on defense. So, I mean, if an operator ban can guarantee you one, and maybe even another, you know, because TSM will have to learn from round 7, where it was that lockout from Astralis, using the Clash on the kitchen, that could very easily be another round as well for Astralis, for all we know.
One thing that's important is that it has put Bolo on Kali. So I would assume that it has been fixed, the bug you were referencing earlier. I don't know. We will not know through this round because Clash is not played. But I think that Kali's being brought not only to clear, but also to deal with a Clash. Should a Clash, you know, be brought again. And that's, you know, that's taking Bolo off a really, you know, off of a potent gun and putting him on a sniper.
Yeah. I do like the Kali, though. I'd speculated. I was very surprised, and it's interesting to see. I wonder if this is a plan that TSM had all along, or if this is just simply a reaction to the Clash coming out that is no longer present here for Astralis, though. But
I bet it's
that said, you talked about this being a reading defense. You were absolutely correct. TSM have not been able to take that top floor yet because Astralis were holding on to it quite heavily. Instead, they get off. Achieved is the first one to perish in this round. From below, a kill hole designed by Retro to hurt TSM works out flawlessly.
Now, with that one pick, though, Astralis still, they find themselves in the lead, but we're talking about TSM, who have been on the back foot for a lot of this match, frankly, and they're not unused to this. The one big thing is that they get the sledge, so it's going to be the breaches of Bolo that will need to do the vertical, and that's just not enough coverage, especially with so little time.
Kali will drop of Bolo and look to head into the bomb site. Iconic goes down. That's the first player from Astralis, but they hold an advantage. Sidearm for Bolo is good enough, and Diffuser from Chala is halfway there. Geo and Bolo watching out as Retro's Nitro Cell connects. 10 seconds left for TSM to fix this. Beautiful shot from Retro holding on to this. He's got every kill for his team so far. All he needs to do is also grab Geo. But you want to play keep away. Geo shuts him down. 2 big kills, but no time to get the Diffuser, and Geo knows it. Another defensive round breaks in Astralis' favor on that brawl that happened with 10 seconds to go. And this is as close a match as we are going to get. Astralis with 4 rounds, TSM with 5.
I mean, Parker, it's 2 things there for TSM, frankly. Number 1, very time inefficient. Number 2, they lost their sledge first. It's crippling. We saw 1 breach from Bolo go down, but that was with 30 seconds left, and there just wasn't enough time for TSM to recover from that position. I mean, even if the sledge were alive, he wouldn't have had time, which is it's rough. So well done to Astralis killing that time, wasting it, and also holding out on the site. specifically Jane I know, I believe that was or was it? No, excuse me. Was it Retro?
Locate and defuse bombs.
Who?
Who picked up the 4K?
Yes, it was Retro.
It was Retro, yeah. So, especially Retro, who picked up that beautiful 4K. Very important hold there. The C4 for the denial, that was what we've been talking about actually a lot with Astralis. Their denial game has been kind of different. Not lacking necessarily, but different. For example, that one kitchen round where they bought the Clash, which they haven't done this time. They're trying to keep us on our toes, and it's working to an extent.
10 seconds left.
All right. Well, back downstairs to kitchen. No Clash on the board for Astralis, but just in case, or maybe it's a stylistic choice, the 13-5 Bolo.TSM will come out on Kali yet again. I'm very glad it was pointed out, by the way, that there's a space before his name. I know Cookies tweeted about this. The analyst for NA Challenger League tweeted about it. It was something that I mentioned on the broadcast. Irritating a lot of people who see those sorts of things. But there's a space before Bolo's name. You'll see it on the kill feed.
And now you've just irritated another few thousand people. It's good that they know, though.
It's really the least I could do.
It's very important that you know. Now, we've got the Kali being brought, which means, of course, that... Oh. Well,
all right,
there goes your hard breach. I was going to say, because the Kali's here, opening the walls is going to be really easy because, you know, you could just get rid of all the denial. The mute chambers are gone. Easy peasy. But then hard breach is dead, so...
That's gonna be pretty tough. So,
yeah,
I don't.
I'm surprised they don't have more hard breachers. They brought a Finka instead of maybe a thermite or an ace or something. A little strange.
I mean, you got a Finka, you have a Kali. Those are two choices that are certainly not meta at the moment, so it's something that can be discussed and as to why they're being brought out.
Because
as for the Kali, I mean, the Kali makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If Thatcher's banned, Kali can work in a pinch. Also, a good counter for the Clash. Each shot of her sniper rifle functions very similarly to the launcher on that Clash that Zofia brings. And obviously with Zofia being banned out by Astralis, then Kali is not that insane of a pick. That said, Bolo's still got that SMG sidearm that can do real damage.
Yeah. There's a reason, at least for the Kali. I think the Finka is starting to become more meta, but... I mean, we can table that conversation for now because the real focus here has to be on Jane I know going down there. Bolo finished off by DP Fire. I believe he was down by a C4. You know, Iconic is going to join him in the grave, though. So a little bit of back and forth, but still Astralis maintains their advantage to an extent. Jane I know is down, and possibly he might get finished off. But look at this. DP Fire still on the roam. Not fully cleared out by TSM and allowed to wreak havoc as a result. Finally, Jane I know is finished off, but at what cost?
I'll stand pat for now. TSM, you've got 30 seconds. You got to get in there. What is your holdup at this point? You're letting the last two players of Astralis who are off-site get mighty close, and Retro will have some friends side by side in just a moment. Damage being done, not a ton. Down goes Merc, and the last one is achieved, who drops. He's hurt and misses his opportunity onto Retro. That Maestro, too much of a chunky monkey for him to do enough damage. An easy closeout for Astralis, as so far they've heard Jesse Chick's words, and they're going to make him eat them. How do they taste, Jesse Chick? That 36% success rate on defense for Astralis. Certainly not this matchup at all, as Astralis have won 3 of the 4 rounds that they've spent on defense thus far, and with it, a timeout will get taken by TSM.
So the pressure points, I talk about this every time, but it feels like it's really just a make or break on those pressure points. TSM unable to get past all of those roaming positions, and crucially, Astralis still has players far above. The real problem there for TSM is how they chose to attack that. They went for a direct bakery, and then when their hard breacher died because I think it was Merc who shot him. I don't remember. Whoever it is, when their hard breacher died, TSM were like, okay, we have to reassess this. We have to go from a different avenue. But because they already spent so much time, they can't just do a full clear. You can't convert to a full clear halfway through the round. You're gonna run out of time. So instead, they try to assume the positions for a standard whiskey VIP take. But Rutro DP Fire is still off site. I mean, so many people are running around for Astralis. They're out there, man. They are not letting you get that stuff for free. And yeah, that break-in routine caused so many problems for TSM. So well played to Astralis. Really bad play there for the TK on TSM. And finally, Bolo's going to switch off the Kali.
I don't think the Kali was an issue for what it's worth.
I don't think it was an issue to the effect that it caused. You're nullifying the clash pick should it happen. And Bolo still has presence on the Kali. I agree with that. But I do think that right now, Bolo is possibly the worst person to have on Kali. No matter how you look at it, you are still limiting your top fragger in this map, at least.
That's true. And then you put him on a pretty good gun. 14-6 Bolo, just to look at the kills here. DP Fire obviously heard the call. He's up right now at 10-7, leading the way. The supports are the ones that seem to be towards the bottom, and Shuttle's been playing more of a support-oriented position, even if his operators have not necessarily shown that. Achieved in DP Fire, by the way, we're talked about is who will get the most opening kills in this match. The vote, as of just not too long ago, was achieved winning 70% to 30% over DP Fire. I mean, opening kills is a tough one. It's not something as simple as, oh, you know, it's just who gets the most kills. No. It's the most opening kills.
Yeah, because
Anywho.
those opening kills are often one of the most, the most important kill in the round, frankly. And I don't actually have the stats. We'll find out.
I would argue that Merc had the most impactful opening kill of the previous round onto his teammate of Shala. If I'm being frank.
No, you can't do him like that, Parker. It happens. No, you're probably right, Parker.
I mean, though, you lose, you kill your only hard breacher by accident. It doesn't matter if it's deliberate or not. That is that's a certified oops moment. So
yep, it was pretty rough, and it did end up costing TSM the round because of that forced conversion through the TK, lack of hard breach. But TSM in this round have opened up top red into piano. They're starting to work the process of getting towards site. On this site, it's a pretty direct contact. You know, there's not a lot of clear. And that's what's caused this site to be one of the harder to defend of the available options on Kafe.
As the Goyo shields both seemingly dealt with now, as there was one at the top of White Stairs that is gone, and now another that is over towards Pixel that has been removed. And immediately, TSM will go on a drone to survey the wreckage that has been left behind. Both of these teams tied at 5 rounds apiece. The timeout taken from TSM. They are hopeful will do some good for them. We've got about a minute to go to see if that's the case. This round has just absolutely flown by, and an Adrenal Surge will possibly be what we hope is an execute. If you're a fan of TSM, you hope that's the case as well. I just want bloodshed. That's what I want. I want these teams to just butt heads. Astralis keeping even, though, so not only do Astralis have a poor win rate on defense and not a great record at all playing this map, and I've only played it once in the last 10 months, but they're hanging tight with TSM right now. They're hanging tight indeed. And, well, they've got to look for an early pick, as TSM seemingly stalled out, but then they find their footing. Achieve gets the opening pick on that round onto Iconic. Astralis will trail in numbers. Merc charging up. He's got his target over towards White Stairs, and he'll continue to do that. Down goes Shuttle. Not a great play from the Jaeger to swing out that way, but that's fine. TSM sweeping right through. J90 next to fall. Retro will also go down, and TSM get a flawless round amidst the chaos that's happening. And that's match point for TSM.
Wow, what an execution, Parker. And here's the thing. This has been a very strange match. It almost feels like Astralis have the momentum, have the wind in their sails, but it's a match point for TSM. They're 1 away from overtime. Astralis can definitely bring us to 3 more rounds. There's no doubt about that. But a round like that, a flawless execution on the top floor, does not bode well. So what was the difference there? And I want to draw a contrast between that execution for TSM and the same exact execution we saw on that top floor from Astralis in the first half. The major difference maker was the fact that TSM cleared out all of those shields. Parker, you mentioned it as it was happening. And it cannot be understated how important that is, because those shields are what allow the defenders to buffer themselves from the storm that is that extremely linear execution coming out of Cigar and Piano. And once that buffer is gone, it becomes exceedingly difficult to hold any aggressive angle on any of the ingress points for the attackers as a defender. And, well, yeah, the shields disappeared, and Astralis all kind of, like, receded back into the walls until eventually TSM were on top of them. And, yeah, it's that little difference that goes a long way. When Astralis was doing that same attack, I think they got one of the 3 shields, and then they all just died. So it's a very different story.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb and defuse it.
So, a crucial round for both teams. Do we see overtime unfold as, well, it's a reading defense. Kitchen is locked out by Astralis. They go back upstairs to Cocktail, but I don't blame them for not doing that. Should we need overtime, by the way, TSM will be on attack twice. That means that Astralis will be on defense twice. For Astralis, that might be good news. Because if we go to overtime, it means that both sides, the defense won 4 rounds. Astralis overperforming their stats on defense now by a country mile, and this will be something to assess as well. This does tend to be a more defender-sided map, so that is something to keep in mind as well, but Kafe has its ebbs and flows.
Those drones could be really pesky on that skylight, and J90 is going to actually fall back. Lots of drones being thrown at him here. Lots of information gathered from TSM. Now, last time TSM was executing on this site, they had a lot of trouble with punishing the roamers upstairs and actually, peeling off a pick from Astralis. Because of that trouble, they ended up not having any time when executing into the site. They almost made it work, but for a 4K from Retro, and I don't know, this is looking like, yet again, a very slow execution from TSM. No early casualties for Astralis. It looks like they're going to fall back with plenty of time, from distancing them from TSM's roam clear. They haven't done that yet, but they're pretty safe right now, and I don't expect this pick to happen, to be honest.
Well, this first pick is going to be absolutely crucial so far. The teams being relatively fair on these first picks. No team absolutely dominating thus far.
Wait, why doesn't he?
I don't know why he decided to put the impact away, but J90 gets flashed out as the Goyo shield goes off in front of him, and maybe some damage being done as there's the adrenal surge from TSM. Still on the window, he's got the attention of the Jaeger. Nice play by J90 to cut down Bolo, but Merc trades it right back. TSM are not going to let this one go lightly. Achieved is the next one to take some damage as Astralis sit at full HP, other than the little bit the DP Fire just did, finding the avenue out of reading with that explosive in hand. The Valkyrie now repositioning. No Nitro Cell available, just those impacts in hand, and you're not going to be able to stop a plant with that. In fact, there is no anti-plant denial unless there is a pre-placed C4, as the 2 C4s are off the board. There goes Chala. Astralis an upper hand, looking to try to force overtime, and Merc is in the middle of the site. He's got the diffuser, and he'll rely on Geo and Achieve to get this one down. Astralis looks to come in. Down goes Geo. So now Achieve from above is going to be the difference maker. Diffuser goes down quite successfully. Merc comes off swinging, and he takes down DP Fire with him. Over towards Pillars he looks, and Achieved has his teammate in tow. Retro fallen. It's shuttle to clutch in a 1v2. TSM want to put this one away. They have a single body to bury, that's it. A single body that spots them from below. A lot of damage done to Achieved, but Shuttle's running out of time. He's at the halfway point, and Merc is there to stop him. There's just too much to look at. Astralis comes so close, but ultimately TSM are still the beasts that we know and have seen time and time again. The scoreline is 7-5 for TSM as they pick up a much-needed victory.
There's some compensation for the TK from Merc earlier in the map. That's a 4K from Merc and a plant to boot. He is also one of the top performers for the lobby. Top scorer, 13 kills for him, 15 kills for Bolo. Huge map from TSM for Merc and Bolo. They have got to be feeling good about that one.
Yeah, I mean, if you're TSM, the landscape of NAL was not the most favorable to you at the time. You came into this matchup currently in 5th place with 4 points, but prior to our very first match, the Sonics were in 2nd place with 6 points. That means that the bottom 4 teams, all of whom are tied with 3 points, of which one of them, for the record, is this Astralis squad. A single win was enough to vault you up into the top 4. That's how close everything is through these five playdays, Michael.
Yep.
TSM picking up this victory will put them in 3rd place, just behind Oxygen and the Sonics. So this was a critical win for Astralis. I think they overperformed expectations. You would have thought they already lost if you'd heard the desk. And some of the things that we were saying at the onset, given their record on defense and their lack of play here on this map, but they came out firing. They were able to keep it close. And this is, even though it's a loss, one of the best performances that we've seen from Astralis so far this stage.
Yeah, definitely, Parker. I strongly agree. I think we saw an excellent performance out of TSM, about standard from what we expect to see from them. And then Astralis showed a lot of growth. I really like the strategies they brought out, especially that clash play in bunker on kitchen. A lot of layering going on there in a good way for Astralis. And that growth is something that, a lot of people were wondering, is that going to happen now that their Astralis no longer disrupt? Is that going to make major waves? It looks like it's starting to slowly make some changes internally on that team, and I'm looking forward to seeing their future.
Absolutely. They've got their work cut out for them still. This is a young team. They're going up against teams that have been around. The top half of the NA League have been around for years versus this Astralis squad, which is still relatively new and is being led right now by 3 players who've all played a fraction of the games that most of these other players on the top teams have. So there's lots of time for them to learn to grow. I have no doubt that with Easley at the helm as coach as well, that he's helping guide them forward. That said, that's our 2nd matchup in the books. We've still got 2 more to go, though, so don't go anywhere. Don't touch that browser. We've got a break, and then the analysts will be talking us through exactly what just happened in that matchup. Sit tight. We'll be right back. What does it take to call next? Follow us for a deep dive into the Rainbow Six community, breaking down barriers, taking you behind the scenes, and showing what it means to level up.
If you want to get better, try reviewing your game footage. Insights.gg's game capture tool makes recording and reviewing fast and easy. With no lag, automatic recording, and instant highlights, it's never been easier to learn from your gameplay. Try it for free at insights.gg today.
When it comes to facing off against Astralis, TSM had the game plan in order to secure the dub plus more. But the one standout in this series was none other than the one and only Bolo. People ask what time he plays, and Astralis, they found out, unfortunately. Bolo, if you can hear me right now, I want to say congratulations. You popped off today, man. After that loss against Dark Zero, coming in, by the way, that coat, whatever you got on, looks sick.
Yeah,
coming in
like
here
it?
after that loss versus Dark Zero, you guys came in. I love it. And you guys look great. Was there any fire for you guys to come out the gate swinging against Astralis to make up for last Playday or what?
I mean, in Dark Zero, we knew what we messed up on. A lot of our attacks on Oregon were just really not it. I think it's been a kind of concurrent issue for us that our attacks have just kind of been basically 50-50. It depends on the day. It's kind of a coin flip, but we've been working on it. and we squeezed in what three attack rounds this time, which is better than the DZ match. So it's all about just working on our quirks and getting the W.
Now, I have a question for you because you popping off is like a fish knowing how to swim. It happens automatically on the regular. When you get in these moods to where you just feel unstoppable, do you yourself feel it, or does something click for you, or do you just not even realize it at this point?
I mean, honestly, I don't think I've been having really a too much of a standout season. I've been kind of I guess sleeping at the wheel a little bit, but we're working on it. Today's match definitely feels good, but I mean, no matter what, it's just a game. All your teammates are with you. All that matters is a W, whether you're dropping 20 or dropping 2.
Well, just another day at the wheel for you is like the best day ever for us. So with that being said, congrats for the win today. But I had another question. When it comes to Astralis, you guys played against a lot of a lot of Clash. When it came to playing against Clash, did it kind of throw you guys off guard or anything like that? Because when it came to executes, the nades, especially from Merc on Finka and what we saw from Achieved, you guys look like this was just well prepped.
I mean, I think if you asked us that 7-8 months ago, probably not. But I think a lot of the time people have been integrating more Clash into their lineup a lot more than what it used to be. So I think for the most part, we're all pretty well prepared for a Clash, whether it's nades, flashes, just going up and smashing the Clash, whatever it may be, we're ready for it.
All right, and the last question, and then I'll leave the floor for you to say what's up to the fans. Now, this one's gonna be kind of different. Now, when it comes to Astralis, you guys had a really close game against them. Now, Astralis has relegation potential, basically. They're in the bottom 4. They're not doing as hot as they usually do. Now, when you guys were prepping for them, obviously you saw weaknesses and strengths, right? Now, when it comes to a team like that, now that we're getting towards the end of the year and the end of the season and the end of the stage, do you see anything that Astralis can do that can actually help uplift them in the standings? Because the race there at the bottom is really tight, and to be completely honest, they could even shoot to the top, man.
I mean, I guess one of their things with Astralis is, I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm not always the one watching the VODs, telling us how to do. But they kind of wait for the opportunities to present themselves. So, maybe Astralis just needs to get on in there a bit more. Maybe just get in the action. I think that's just one of the main things that they have. I could be wrong. Astralis might be watching this after the fact and be like, "What is that guy talking about?" But that's what I saw, and that's what we kind of took advantage of.
All right, Bolo, you already know the deal. This end part is just for you. Show some love to the viewers out there. Tell them why they should tune in next time TSM plays. And you guys are actually playing against Space Station Gaming next time, so it's going to be good.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good one. I mean, thank you guys for the support, even through the downs we've had recently with the Mexico Major and the beginning of the kind of 50-50 stage start on us. But really appreciate it. We all do, from the whole team, whole TSM. Thank you guys so much. And next week SSG, it's gonna be a good one. So make sure to stop in and watch that.
Bring that heat, Bolo. The zip up is fire. You guys are on fire today. You have a good night, and I'll catch you next time.
I appreciate your time, Veli. Thank you.
No problem, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, Bolo right there. But with the replays brought to us by Predator, it was way closer than we imagined, man. Astralis, they hung in there, but it wasn't enough for TSM. As TSM wound up winning on the day. And Jacob, we saw Bolo on top as usual, man.
Yeah, it was good to see him in that position. I feel like this game, it definitely had the expected swing at the start. We knew defenses on Kafe for TSM were always going to be strong. And then there was only 2 rounds that Astralis, I think, were really able to break through on their attack and show like more of their stuff. And then the adaptations, like Kix mentioned, I feel like Astralis brought a couple of new things to the table. Against TSM, it very nearly worked, but the dreaded tag timeout from Podra Man meant TSM was really able to dial back in, and even an almost retro ace couldn't keep Astralis in this one.
Yeah, this is another good win for TSM to be able to get on the board. Again, it's not against one of those top 5 teams, but it is the wins like this that are really going to keep TSM above water, keep themselves going. I mean, it's Kafe, it's kind of business as usual, but I like what the casters were saying. I mean, there were some strong points from Astralis in this, and I really do think they kept TSM on their toes, maybe more than we were giving them credit for.
Yeah, and taking a look at the stats right now. Hey, let's give credit where credit's due. Yeah, Astralis lost about 2 rounds, but when it came to opening kills, those boys were on it. Jin, I know, especially with 4 kills of his own to start things off, but it's all about Bolo and Merc today. 15 kills for Bolo, 13 for Merc. And when it comes to calls, 75% between Gio and Bolo as well. So, fellas, let's break this down a little bit. Jesse, speaking of Bolo, I said his name about 30 times just now. We saw him with the Cali pick against the Clash, and they seemed to just have counters when it was needed. Bolo was just on fire today, man.
Yeah, I mean, he really was having a great time. Obviously, running around on the defense, I think, was probably his biggest strength. But in that second half as well, I mean, having a fantastic time. 15 and 7 kind of speaks for itself. But it's that star player, especially on Kafe, where Bolo tends to shine up in that bathroom. That really tends to be the tipping point for TSM.
Right, and Jacob, I hate to do this because I love Shuttle to death, and we all love Shuttle, but he really struggled this game. He didn't even start off that well as well. We thought he was going to get the clutch, but still, Merc was too much for him. But starting off slow for Astralis definitely hurt him.
Yeah, a little bit. I do feel like only having, I think it was a couple of kills in the first half, like a pair of them, and that was really the starting point for Shuttle. He had a lot of early struggles. He was somebody who was trying to create a lot of mid-round pressure, but wasn't able to do much of it. He didn't have any opening kills or any opening deaths, so at the front or the back end of the round is not really where he necessarily had any problems, but I do feel like, especially if he had been able to clutch up that final round on round 12, where it was just Merkin achieved and him by himself, and maybe there's a chance that Astralis can kind of pull that one back. He is somebody who can clutch up. There's no doubting the 1vx potential that he's got, but so far he only has, if memory serves, no, he actually has 3 1vx's so far through this season, and it's not been something that Astralis has been able to turn into more match wins overall. Like, if you're putting Shuttle in a lot of those situations, then there's not really much that you can do about it, because Astralis just haven't been able to make his effort worth it in the long run.
No, not at all. And Jesse, when it comes to Astralis as well, defensively, I mean, any pros or cons you put up from that?
Yeah, I think Astralis from their defenses. I mean, I think the Clash play really was something to be proud of. I think Retro, particularly on defense, was having some great moments. The Clash was the start of it. Maybe more so on that cooking defense rather than the top floor one, but that was good at the start there. And then as well, I thought that like that 4K playing from down below, being able to work with the teammates, I think was really well done by Astralis on their defenses. I think some of the defensive wins can come down to some mistakes from TSM. Team killing your only hard breach tends to make it hard to push, but overall, I thought the defenses were a lot better than what we've seen in the past, and that's that low win rate on defense might have had more to do with the sample size than the actual skill level of Astralis.
What about the roam, Jesse? Because there's one round in particular. I remember when Merc was over in bar, behind bar, near Freezer, and we saw Astralis on that top floor, and they didn't even notice he was there. But besides that one round, would you say that Astralis have done better when it comes to playing against the roam, or was it same mistakes as usual?
Yeah, I don't know, Veli. I feel like most of the time, like the criticism we've had of Astralis is that they're way too aggressive, right? They're getting into gunfights too early, maybe without enough information, taking too many risks. And that didn't feel like the problems we were seeing today. It felt like this was a more reserved Astralis. So I like that direction change from them. I said before they were LARPing as a Brazilian team. I didn't really see that today. You know, I mean, there were some moments. Iconic had a fun run out and they did some stuff, but more or less, this was a relatively passive form of Astralis, and I thought it worked a lot better. I thought that's a big reason why they ended up with as many rounds as they did, and going forward, if they can continue on this path, I really do think it can convert into more rounds.
All right, now, Jesse, I want to see you convert into the professor version of yourself, because you actually have a round replay for us for something that you loved watching this matchup.
Yeah, so I'm glad I got the chance to hype up Retro in the defense, because I did feel the attack was an area where he did kind of slip up. What I want to showcase with these 2 rounds is Retro's inability to contain Bolo. So this is going to be round 2 at the very start, and he's droning out Bolo. His job is to contain this player inside of VIP. Bolo escaped from the roam, and now he's got to be the one to shut it down. One big thing to remember is that Retro is used to playing on the hard breach, and at the beginning of the stage, after the first matchup, he's kind of given that role over to Shuttle, and he's been playing more of this flank watch. I think it's taking a while to really fit in. He throws the flash, but it's a little bit mistimed. He doesn't manage to push this angle until a lot later after the flash goes off, and he loses his gunfight there at the end in round 2. Really unfortunate he wasn't able to do that. And then the other moment that I wanted to bring up was the 4th round, where Bolo was able to drop down to the train hatch from his position up in the top floor bathroom. Retro wasn't there to watch that. So a couple of times on that flank watch, he was not able to contain Bolo, and Bolo popped off in both of those rounds.
Yes, now we also have a round 4 demo, Jesse. I mean, you on the roll today, man.
Yeah, if we've got it coming up now. I just kind of went over it, but we'll see it actually in action then if we can bring it up. Perfectly done. Here we go. So again, this is Retro, and you got to remember, down inside of Piano right now, Bolo is getting ready to drop that hatch. He and Merc have not been cleared of this top floor, and it's fine to not clear top floor, but you have to watch for the train drop. At this very moment, there are Astralis players inside of train getting ready to go for a mining execute, and Retro is not there to watch it. He's funneling through these drones. He's not being able to do it, and here comes the EE1D, but he's just not in time. That's Bolo on the screen. He looks the wrong way, and Bolo drops. We just miss it. It's a matter of split seconds from Retro, but he's got to be kicking himself after that. His job is to prevent that from happening, and frankly, he just didn't do it.
A game of seconds, Jesse. That's what we call Rainbow Six Siege timing right there. But this is our community poll question, and Jacob, I'm gonna need your help with this one. I think it's actually a good one. Don't try to guess on the popularity side, okay? Now,
Sure.
achieved in DP Fire, they led their team in entries, but who will get the most opening kills this match? I think that is actually a very good question.
Ooh, this one's a little interesting because I think J90 was the one who got the most opening kills. Like most of his kills actually came on entry, and DP Fire wasn't somebody who did that more often. This game, yeah. So I'm trying to remember, like Achieved almost seemed like he was first death more than he was first kill, but I think I'm still gonna go with Achieved, honestly.
Right, because I don't think TSM did too good on opening kills this game, Jesse.
I think Achieved did a little bit better. I know he got the opening pick back in like round 7, I believe, and then round 11 as well from my notes. Might have been more, but I think Achieved did do a little bit better. Probably not who I would have picked though, if I was predicting at the start.
Well, even though DP Fire is a rising star in the NAL, unfortunately, when it came to this poll, the viewers did not believe in him. 30% compared
TSM
to
Twitter poll, man.
Big Dog achieves 70%. TSM, they just win all the time, right, Jacob?
I mean, find me an example of TSM not winning in a Twitter poll, even if it's like every single player on that team's a household name, and Astralis is still trying to prove themselves. So.
There's just two things that don't lose in Twitter polls: TSM and also Rainbow Six Siege, but we already know about that.
Death, taxes, and TSM winning Twitter polls.
Yes, exactly. But coming up next, ladies and gentlemen, okay, if you thought the first game was hot, okay. If you thought the last game was okay, watching Bolo run around and do his thing, I agree with you. But this next game coming up is about to be everything you've always wanted. Oxygen, the #1 team in all of NA, facing off against our loved Space Station game. You guys don't want to miss it. We'll catch you guys on the other side of this break for some more NAL action.